And Eric Gibson is with us now. Welcome. Wonderful to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Let me mention some of the honors and awards just from this past year. 2013 International Bluegrass Music Association Entertainers of the Year, Vocal Group of the Year, Song of the Year for They Called It Music, and Songwriter of the Year. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
What an incredible year for you and the band.
Yeah, we didn't see it coming. We've been at it a long time now. We've been at it, since the mid-90s or so, and it just seems to get a little better each year. But you don't play for that reason. You don't play because you want to win an award. You play because you love what you're doing. You love the music, and my son's a young musician. That's what I tell him. I said, don't worry about awards and things like that. Worry about getting good, getting as good as you can, and then maybe those awards can come your way.
But you, of course, must love people appreciating your music, and obviously,
yeah, of course,
people now know you and love your music.
Well, it's an honor. Anytime anybody comes up to you and tells you that they like a song you wrote, or people come out to the show, it's a good feeling. It's no fun to play on stage if people aren't out there.
That's true.
And we have. So.
And speaking of being on a big stage, on a national stage, just a couple of weekends ago, on Garrison Keillor's Prairie Home Companion on National Public Radio, that must have been special for you.
It was great. I mean, Garrison is such a pro, and everybody that he surrounds himself with. I've listened to that show on the radio so many times, but to be there backstage and watching the actors and the guy doing the sound effects and the band, and Garrison does that monologue with no notes or anything. He's just a genius. And that term gets thrown around too much, but it's appropriate when you're speaking about him. He really is a genius, and of course I like him. He seemed to like the band, so it was a good time.
And for you folks, exposure on National Public Radio must have been nice.
Yeah, we've tried to get on that program for a decade, and we got the call a few weeks ago, and we said, of course. We were playing in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we had to get up in the middle of the night and drive to the airport and fly to St. Paul, Minnesota, and what a great time.
You still are doing quite a few concerts. How much are you traveling? How much are you on the road?
I'd say about half the this year we did about 90 dates, but a lot of times it takes a day to get to a date and a day to get back. So I'd say we're gone from home at least about half the time.
And the rest of the time when you're home, you're doing a lot of performances locally. Your roots are here, and you still do a number of concerts.
Yeah, and we've tried to limit it somewhat. I want people to keep coming. I don't want it to be old hat. I just saw the Gibson Brothers last month. Our booking agent warned us about that. He said you can overplay an area, even your home area. So typically in a year, I think we'll play 4 or 5 times in the North Country. I'd love to play there all the time, but I want it to be special. Yeah. I want people to keep coming out.
And speaking of that being special, oftentimes you do it for a purpose, for a cause, a fundraiser, and you're helping out your neighbors, you're helping out the communities when you do these shows.
We've done quite a few fundraisers, and it does our heart good to know that music you're playing on stage is not only hopefully entertaining, but it's also some of the dollars are going towards a good cause.
You are one of the headliners for the first Bluegrass Festival coming up in Lake Placid this coming weekend. Next weekend, next weekend.
Right, I'm excited about that. Lake Placid, I think they're calling it the Lake Placid Bluegrass Jam, and some real good talent there. Del McCurry, I think he's won Entertainer of the Year 9 or 10 times, and he's won several Grammys, and as has Sam Bush, another great picker. And I can't remember all the names, but they have a website. You can check it out, and it should be fun. I'm excited. Bluegrass seems to be growing in the North Country. There's always been some bluegrass here. My brother Lee and I growing up, would go to like the Jericho Bluegrass Festival when they had that years ago, and but it's growing. It's grown a lot since then, and with the Plattsburgh Bluegrass Festival that just happened, and now this one in Lake Placid. I'm happy about that because bluegrass, by and large, is a niche music. It's not a mainstream art form really, but the people that do get involved and fall in love with it, almost becomes I feel like I'm a part of the world's coolest cult, you know. We feel like we're onto something not everybody knows about. But
Well, how did you fall in love? How did you and Lee fall in love with bluegrass?
my mom and dad loved it. They loved all kinds of music. You know, the country music was always on the radio on the farm. We grew up on a dairy farm in Ellenburg Depot, and so we heard that, and we'd watch Austin City Limits and Hee Haw and shows like that, and they'd have bluegrass from time to time, and it kind of grabbed our attention. And there was a radio station that played it on Saturday night, so Dad would listen to it then. And but when I was 12 and Lee was 11, we started taking lessons at Dick's Country Store in Cherubusco.
Of course.
And from Eric O'Hara, a great local musician. And Dad had a banjo and guitar. He never learned how to play anything, but I think he wanted to. So there were instruments in the house.
So I was going to ask you about that. Was there a banjo player, a grandparent or a parent or somebody that inspired you?
Well, I mean, music, especially on my mom's side. My mom's side loved music, a lot of singing, and my grandfather Arlie played a little bit of fiddle, not a lot, but he could play a few little tunes, but singing was always there. And my dad was a good singer. Nobody knows that. He wouldn't sing in front of anybody, but he was a great singer. Heard him sing a lot of times in the field or in the barn, you know.
And he passed it on to his sons.
Yeah, so. Yeah. He was a really good singer, and so anyway, music was always there.
He must be proud of his sons.
I hope he is. Yeah, and I know he was. You know, we lost him in early 2012, but you know, so it was bittersweet to win those awards that you talked about because he didn't get to see that happen. But I think he thought it was coming, you know, and so I don't do a show without thinking of him. Anyway, thankful for that.
You have a show coming up in the middle of next month in November at Plattsburgh State at Gilt's Auditorium on the 16th of November.
Excited about that too. You talked about, you know, not only is it a concert, but it's bringing awareness to bluegrass for the next generation, which is happening at Plattsburgh State these days. There's a bluegrass minor and there's a bluegrass club, and a friend of ours has helped set that in motion, and anonymously, but he's doing great things. And so bluegrass, I talked about bluegrass growing in the North Country. It definitely has its place at Plattsburgh State these days, and we're excited to see what becomes of that, because it's just kind of taken off in the last year. And so you'll be seeing different concerts, not just from the Gibson Brothers, but from other national artists. I think you'll be seeing other concerts coming through, and they have a whole bunch of ideas. And
fantastic, sharing it with the new generation.
Yes, that's what we need. We need the young folks to grab onto this and carry it forward. I used to be the young guy. Lee and I used to be the young guys in bluegrass.
Yeah, that's right.
We need and young people are coming along, but it's fun to see them get excited about what we love. And
are they not familiar with it, not that familiar with it, and when they hear it, do they discover that they love it, they like it? Yeah,
I mean, I went to Plattsburgh State a couple times last year with Professor Steve Light. I went into his class and we played, and you know, it's nice to see that the open-mindedness that you know, a lot of, like, you ask some of these students, why did you take this course? Well, I like music. That's a good answer. Yeah. You know, they didn't have preconceived notions about what bluegrass is. I think sometimes people hear the word bluegrass and they think of hay bales and deliverance and things like that. It's much more than that. You know, yeah. there are a lot of layers, and it's a lot more sophisticated music than people sometimes, you know, than people sometimes think. And so I like the open-mindedness of the youth, and that's what we need.
Coming up, and speaking of sharing with a greater audience, that's really what this Bluegrass Underground show does on PBS now. It's probably introducing bluegrass to a whole new audience.
Yeah, what a thrill to have done that. And yeah, bluegrass, it's called Bluegrass Underground, but they have a lot of acts that come through that aren't necessarily bluegrass, but I think all the acts come through are roots artists, you know. But bluegrass is a term that, you know, it's close enough.
Right.
But I think the weekend that we taped, I think Lucinda Williams was there, and Keller Williams, and Old Crow Medicine Show, that would be accepted, I think, by people more with a big tent theory about what bluegrass is or Americana.
Right.
I guess that's. Bluegrass Underground has a lot of Americana artists.
Right, and I know there are the purists. There's the contemporary versus the pure bluegrass debate
I like it
at
all.
times.
I like it all. I think if you look at the Gibson Brothers, we're more on the traditional end of the spectrum. But I get tired of hearing just the same instruments on that. All the time. I like or the same approaches all the time. So.
And that's much of what the discussion is about. What instruments are included.
Yeah, and also the approach, also the, stylistically, but, I think we have to, I think there's room for us all, and if there were Martians and they came, if they came to Earth, I think it was also similar anyway. We tend to bicker over the little nuances, and just good music is good music. Yeah. That's what I think.
And for the folks that may not have seen the show, the reason it's called Bluegrass Underground is because literally this amphitheater is 300 some feet underground.
Yes, you have to. Yeah, they take you in these little gators. I walked, but they loaded up the instruments and gear and stuff in these gators and drove down into this hole in the ground. Cumberland Caverns in McMinnville, Tennessee, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous under there. It's either 56 or 58 degrees year round down there. The temperature's also so. It was a little cool, but you wear suits and stuff. It's not so bad. But we had a great time.
And they talk about the volcano room where the amphitheater is and the acoustics there.
Yeah. It's really you wouldn't never think that. It would sound as good down there as it does, but it really is almost like it was meant for music. And so proud to have done that program, and so happy that that 57 WCFE is carrying it. It's
we're
wonderful.
Happy to, and we're really getting a great response to the program. And I'm sure the whole idea behind it, and for you as well, it probably does introduce this to new potential legions of fans out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because we've been at this for so long. I mean, like I told you, since the early to mid 90s. And we'll still have people come up and say, I love bluegrass, and I've never heard of you before. And I think, my gosh, how long do I have to play? But my brother put it well. He said, think of it this way, there are still a lot of people to find, and there are. And a show like Bluegrass Underground, it's grabbing people's attention and maybe having people take a look at roots music that wouldn't look at it otherwise. Shows like Bluegrass Underground and a Prairie Home Companion.
Exactly. I think for people that heard a Prairie Home Companion a couple of weekends ago and your wonderful song, They Called It Music.
Oh, thank you.
If they hadn't heard that before, I'm sure they were hooked. It was a wonderful performance. You had a fiddle player with you. Now, is he with the band?
Oh, all the time. He's been with us for 11 years. His name is Clayton Campbell. And that's just, for some reason, the guys that joined the band, most of them tend to stick around a while. He's been here with us for 11 years, and our bass player, Mike Barber, has been with us for 21 years.
Are they all local, or in greater New York and in Nashville, or are they all spread out?
Kind of spread out. Mike Barber, our bass player, lives up here, as I do. And my brother, Lee, lives in the Albany area now. Clayton lives in Nashville. And Jesse Brock, our mandolin player, lives in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so we make it work. We're all spread out, but it's hard to find a lot of people locally that are crazy enough to try to do what we're trying to do. So we've had to, it works. It somehow works.
It does work, and thank goodness you were crazy enough to do it, because you make wonderful music. Eric Gibson, thanks a lot for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, Bluegrass Underground with the Gibson Brothers from Cumberland Caverns will be on Mountain Lake PBS Thursday, October 23rd at 8:30 p.m. Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you.